Commander Hayes stood at the observation window of the human station. Outside, the planet Glacis Prime turned slowly below him. Ice covered everything. Storms moved across the surface like angry creatures, rolling and twisting in the darkness. Had been at this station for 2 years. 2 years of watching aliens from 100 different species treat humans like children who should not be allowed near real power. 2 years of standing in rooms where nobody listened to what he said. 2 years of watching the unified Galactic Council make decisions that affected human colonies, and human voices were always the quietest in the room. They were the worst. Their empire controlled 3 star systems. Their weapons were better. Their ships were faster. Their warriors had lived for centuries while humans barely lived to 80 years old. The Emperor had made his feelings clear about humanity the first time met him. The Emperor had looked at him the way a person might look at an insect crawling on the ground. Push these feelings away. They did not help. They did not change anything. The alert sounded. Spun from the window. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. Alarms rang loud enough to hurt his ears. He moved fast, his military training taking over his body before his mind caught up. A distress signal, coming from the surface of Glacis Prime. He ran to the command center. Captain Morgan was already there, her face lit by the blue glow of the screens. "What do we have?" asked. "Royal transport. The signal identifier says it belongs to Princess of the Empire." Stomach dropped. The princess was the daughter of Emperor. She was young, maybe 30 years old in human years, though lived much longer than that. She was famous for her warrior skills and her fierce loyalty to her father's empire. "Why is she on Glacis Prime?" asked. "Trade negotiations. She was traveling to meet with the colony representatives." Captain Morgan looked up from her screen. "If she is dead, our relations with the Empire are finished. Not just damaged, finished." Understood the weight of those words. The Empire was not a small power. They had battleships. They had soldiers. They had the ability to destroy human colonies, and nobody in the Galactic Council would stop them. Humanity needed them more than the needed humanity. "Assemble a rescue team," said. "I am going down." Captain Morgan did not argue. She knew was the right choice. He had military training. He had experience in survival situations. He had the kind of thinking that saved lives. 20 minutes later, stood in the transport bay with his team. Lisa Grant was their medical specialist. Her hands were shaking, but she was ready. Robert Cole was their engineer. Lee was their equipment expert. And Tommy Park was their second combat officer, a man who had seen more danger than any of them. "Listen up," said. "This is not a normal rescue. This is not a regular mission. This is about the future of humanity in this galaxy. The princess is down there, and we are going to bring her back alive. We do not leave anyone behind. Is that understood?" "Understood," they said together. The shuttle descended through the storm. The winds hit them like fists. The shuttle shook and bounced. Outside the windows, nothing was visible except white snow and gray sky. The temperature outside was -80 degrees Celsius. Nothing human could survive for more than minutes in that environment. The crash site appeared suddenly, a dark mark against the white surface. The royal transport was torn apart. Metal lay scattered across the ice. The impact had been violent. His team looked at each other. Nobody expected to find survivors. They landed 50 meters away from the wreck, sealed his suit. The others did the same. They stepped out into the storm. The wind nearly knocked down. He had to lean into it to walk. His team followed him, roped together for safety. Snow covered everything. Ice formed on their suit visors faster than the heating elements could melt it away. They reached the royal transport. The breach in the hull was obvious. It was a hole about 2 meters wide. The ship had been torn open like a can. Inside could see movement. Something was moving in there. "Stay alert," said into the communication line. They entered through the breach. The interior was dark and cold. Their suit lights cut through the darkness like swords, and then they saw them. 3 soldiers lay on the floor. They were dead. Their bodies were positioned in a line between the breach and the rest of the ship. They had deliberately placed themselves in front of the hole. They had chosen to meet the vacuum of space to protect something behind them. "Keep moving," said. They went deeper into the ship, and then they found her. The princess lay on a medical platform. Her violet skin was pale. Her eyes were closed. She was not moving, but her chest rose and fell. She was alive. "Lisa, check her condition," ordered. Lisa moved to the princess with quick, practiced movements. She attached a medical scanner to his neck. The device beeped. Lisa looked up at. She is alive. Her vital signs are stable. She has injuries, but nothing that looks immediately fatal. We need to get her to medical bay now. Moved to the princess and carefully lifted her in his arms. She was smaller than he expected, lighter. Her body was warm against his suit, though he could not feel it through the layers of protection. Her head rested against his chest. "This way," he said. They moved back through the darkness toward the breach. Did not look at the dead soldiers. He did not have time for respect or honor. He had time for one thing only: getting the princess to safety. They ran from the ship. The storm was getting worse. The wind was stronger. Snow came down so thick that could barely see his own team in front of him, but he kept moving. He held the princess close and moved forward. The shuttle appeared out of the white, suddenly real and solid and safe. They pulled themselves inside, the door sealed. The wind still howled outside, but they were away from it now. They were protected. Lisa immediately went to work on the princess. She connected her to medical equipment. She attached sensors and monitors. She injected medications that did not recognize. "She will survive," Lisa said, "but she needs the full medical bay. We need to get back to the station now." The shuttle powered up. The engines roared. They lifted away from Glacis Prime and climbed back toward the station, climbing away from the ice and the darkness and the dead soldiers. Looked at the princess lying unconscious on the emergency bed. Her violet skin seemed to glow under the lights. Her face was calm. She looked so young, so vulnerable, so far from the warrior he had heard stories about. He did not know yet that she had regained consciousness just before he entered the cargo bay. He did not know that she had felt his strength as he lifted her. He did not know that she had heard him tell his team to respect the dead soldiers. He did not know that everything was about to change. The medical bay filled with tension like a poison gas. Princess lay in the medical pod, her violet skin glowing beneath the white light. Tubes connected to her arms and chest. Machines beeped and hummed around her. 3 human doctors stood nearby, watching every number on every screen. Stood outside the pod. He had been ordered to stay away. Captain Morgan had made that very clear. Do not approach the princess. Do not touch her. Do not speak to her. In culture, touching the royal family without permission was a serious crime. Humans had already made one mistake by carrying her from the crash site. They could not make another. Did not leave. He sat in a chair 20 meters away and watched. The message came from the Empire within 3 hours. It was not a grateful message. It was not a thank you for saving the princess. It was a demand, a formal complaint. Emperor was coming to the station. He was bringing a battleship. He was bringing soldiers. And he was coming to find out why humans had violated his daughter's body by touching her without permission. Captain Morgan called an emergency meeting. "We made a mistake," she said. The other officers nodded, listened, and said nothing. The rescue was necessary, the touch was necessary, but in law that does not matter. The law says you do not touch the royal family. We have broken that law. "We saved her life," said quietly. "That is what we will tell them," Captain Morgan replied, "but that may not be enough." The battleship arrived 2 days later. It was massive. The human station was like a toy beside it. Emperor boarded with a small group of guards. He was tall, even taller than. His violet skin was darker than his daughter's. His eyes were cold and empty, like looking at a weapon instead of a person. Wanted to explain. He wanted to tell the Emperor what had happened on the ice. How the 3 soldiers had died protecting his daughter. How she would have frozen in the darkness if had waited for permission. How the rescue had been an act of mercy, not an act of disrespect. But Captain Morgan told him to stay quiet. The humans had a formal hearing with the Galactic Council. They presented their complaint. Humans presented their defense. The council was divided. Some species supported the humans. Others agreed with the justice was hard to find when different species had different laws. Through it all, sat in the medical bay. Not because anyone ordered him to, not because it was his job, but because something inside him needed to be there. The medical pod kept alive while her body healed, watched her breathe. He watched the monitors track her heartbeat. He read the medical reports. The doctors said she would recover fully. The injuries were serious but not permanent. In 3 more days she would wake up. Did not leave. Lisa Grant found him asleep in the chair on the 3rd night. She was working late shift, checking on the princess's condition. She saw his head resting against the back of the chair, his body exhausted. She said gently, "Go get some sleep, real sleep in a bed." "I am sleeping," said, even though he was clearly awake now. "No, you are not. You are sitting in a chair all day and all night watching a princess, while her father is threatening war with our entire species. Why are you doing this?" Did not have a good answer. He tried anyway. Because she was alone down there. Because her soldiers died for her. Because someone needs to be here when she wakes up. Someone needs to tell her that we did not leave her to freeze. Lisa looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. "You are a good man. Do not let anyone tell you different." She left him alone with the princess. On the 4th day, his eyes opened. Was asleep again. His head was tilted to the side at an uncomfortable angle. His face had several days of stubble. His uniform was wrinkled. He looked like a man who had been through a war. Watched him for a long time. She was confused at first. The memories of the crash were there. The terrible sound of the ship tearing apart. The feel of her soldiers pushing her down, protecting her with their bodies. The cold that seemed to reach through everything and touch her bones. And then a man, large, strong, human. She recognized the species from her secret studies. This was a human, and he was lifting her with a kind of strength that seemed impossible. His arms had felt safe when nothing else was safe. Now that same human was sleeping in a chair beside her medical pod. Had been raised to see humans as weak, primitive, emotional. Her father had told her that human lives were so short that they did not develop proper discipline. They did not understand honor because they would be dead before they learned it. But this human had risked his life for her. This human had not waited for permission. This human had sat beside her while she slept, watching over her like she was something valuable. Tried to move. Her body hurt, everything hurt, but she managed to make a small sound. Woke instantly. His eyes opened. He was alert immediately, his mind clearing from sleep in seconds. His military training was very good. "You are awake," he said. Was surprised by his accent. He was trying to speak her language, but it sounded like he was learning the words in his mouth for the first time. His tone was careful, respectful. "Yes," answered in English, the human language. Her father did not know she had studied it. Her father did not know many things about her. Looked startled that she was speaking his language. "You speak English." "I teach myself," said. "Your films, your books, your music, I learn from them." "That is good, that is very good," stood up. He looked like he was trying to decide what to say next. "How do you feel? Are you in pain?" "I am alive," said. "Your doctor said I would not be, but I am because you came for me." Shook his head. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," said. She understood the truth now, seeing it clearly for the first time. No one else would have done this. Your people are different. You are different. You came for me even though you could not gain anything. You risked your life for a stranger. I have studied your species for 3 years, human. I know this about you. You do not act this way because it is logical. You act this way because you must. Sat back down in the chair. In my culture, we call that honor, he said. Tried to smile, but her face was still too damaged. In my culture, she said quietly, we call that something impossible. We call it weakness. But I think perhaps we are wrong about what weakness means. Outside the medical bay, alarms began to sound again. But inside, in the quiet space where the human guard sat beside the princess, something had already changed. Something that would eventually change everything. The trial was held in the main chamber of the Galactic Council. 20 species were represented. 50 representatives sat in a circle, ready to judge whether humans had broken the laws of the galaxy or whether they had done the right thing. Stood in the center of the chamber. He was alone. Captain Morgan had wanted to stand with him, but the court rules did not allow it. He had to answer for his actions by himself. The prosecutor was cold and precise. He laid out the law. He explained that the royal family of the empire was sacred. To touch them without permission was a violation that went deeper than crime. It was an insult. It was a statement that human lives mattered more than honor. The human touched our princess, the prosecutor said. He held her body against his suit. He carried her like she was his property, not his princess. This is the action of a species that does not understand respect. Wanted to shout. He wanted to tell them about the crash site, about the 3 soldiers, about the temperature that would have killed anyone in minutes, but he was silent. He had been instructed to listen. Then the prosecutor showed something terrible, a video from the rescue shuttle, a recording of entering the cargo hold with the princess in his arms. His voice was clear on the recording. Get the medical equipment ready. She is hurt, but she is alive. Nobody moves until we make sure she is safe. Treat her with respect. These soldiers died for her. We will honor that. The prosecutor played the video 3 times. Each time, his words hung in the air like an accusation. He gave orders, the prosecutor said. He took command. He treated the princess like she was his responsibility. This shows that the human believes he has authority over the royal family. This is not respect. This is conquest. The words were lies, but they were clever lies. They were the kind of lies that could destroy nations. A council member stood up. They were allies of the... I move that the humans be found guilty of violation of royal sanctity. I move that they be banned from this station. I move that trade with humanity be suspended until they apologize to Emperor. Other voices supported the motion. The council was turning against the humans, could see it happening. He could see the future being decided in real time. Humanity would be isolated. The empire would pressure other species to cut ties with human colonies, and would be the reason why. Then something unexpected happened. The doors to the council chamber opened. Princess walked through them. She was still healing from her injuries, but she was walking. Her violet skin was covered with white bandages. Her movements were slow and careful, but she was there. Nobody had expected her to appear. The Emperor had certainly not expected it. His expression changed when he saw his daughter. Surprise and anger mixed together. Walked to the center of the chamber. She looked at for just a moment. Her eyes were strong, steady. Then she turned to face the council. I am Princess of the Empire, she said. Her voice carried the weight of her title. I demand the right to speak to this council. By the laws of my people in this council, I have that right. The galactic judges looked at each other. They could not refuse her. She was the one who had been rescued. Her voice was the one that mattered most. The human did not violate me, said simply. The human saved my life. My guards died protecting me. My ship crashed in a storm that would kill any living thing in minutes. I would have died. I would have frozen on that ice planet and my body would never have been recovered. She paused. She looked at her father. The human came through the storm. He did not ask permission. He did not wait for official approval. He did what was necessary to save a life. In culture, we say that honor comes from strength, but we have been wrong about what true strength is. The council was silent, continued. True strength is the ability to put aside your own rules when someone needs you. True strength is the choice to act when action is dangerous. True strength is what this human showed when he carried me to safety. She turned directly to, I wish to remain on this station. I wish to study human culture with Commander Hayes. I wish to learn why your people do the things they do. And if my father will not permit this, then I will find another way. I am a warrior of the Empire, and I choose to make my own decisions about my life. The room exploded in noise. Galactic representatives shouted. Some agreed with her, others did not. They demanded that she be removed from the chamber for disrespecting her father. The humans stayed silent, watching. Emperor stood up. He was a massive figure, and when he moved, the entire chamber seemed to shrink. He walked toward his daughter. The air felt dangerous, moved without thinking. He stepped forward, positioning himself between the Emperor and his daughter. The Emperor stopped. He looked down at. His hand moved to the ceremonial blade at his side. You dare, the Emperor said quietly. I do, said. His voice did not shake. You can kill me if you want, but I will not step aside while you hurt her. For a moment, nothing moved. For a moment, the entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Then the Emperor removed his hand from his blade. He looked at his daughter. He looked at, and something shifted in his expression. You are a fool, the Emperor said to, but you are an honest fool. That is rare in this galaxy. He turned back to his daughter. You have made your choice, but understand this, you are still my daughter, and if this human harms you, I will destroy his entire species. I know, said, that is why I trust him. The Emperor walked back to his seat. The Galactic Council fell silent once more. Then slowly, one by one, the representatives began to vote. Human, human, human. The votes came in favor of the humans. The claims were dismissed, was found innocent. But more than that, something had changed in the council itself. Humanity was no longer being judged as invaders. They were being recognized as something else, something worth understanding. As and left the chamber together, the cameras recorded the image. A human man and a princess, walking side by side, their alliance written into the laws of the galaxy itself. 6 months passed. The human station became a place of change. Moved into quarters on the station. She worked on cultural exchange programs. They spent their days in meetings and discussions about human and differences. They spent their nights talking about music and art and the strange ways that different species saw the universe. Was fascinated by how mind worked. She asked questions constantly. Why did humans make art if it served no practical purpose? Why did humans create music that made them feel sad instead of strong? Why did humans forgive enemies instead of destroying them? Tried to answer. He explained that humans made art because life had meaning beyond survival. He explained that music helped humans feel connected to each other. He explained that forgiveness meant that you could move forward instead of staying stuck in hate. Listened and understood, and slowly she changed. She was still a warrior. That did not change, but she began to understand that there were different kinds of strength. There was the strength that came from weapons, but there was also the strength that came from choosing mercy, the strength that came from choosing love instead of revenge, the strength that came from making connections across impossible differences. One evening, they stood together on the observation deck. The stars stretched out in front of them, planets and nebulas and dark space, all of it infinite and mysterious. Tell me something, said. Tell me the truth. Why did you really stay with me while I was healing? Your captain told you to leave. Your culture told you to stay away, but you refused. Why? Was quiet for a long time. I do not know if I can explain it properly, but I will try." He gestured at the stars. "Where I come from, Earth, we have oceans and mountains and sky. We have things that are bigger than us. And we have learned that we are not alone in those things. We share the Earth with millions of other creatures. And we have learned slowly that the lives of others matter. When I saw you lying in that pod, I saw a life that mattered. Not because you were a princess. Not because you were, just because you were alive and you needed help. Process this. Your captain said you were taking a risk. He said that caring about me could hurt your career. He said you were being foolish." "He was right," said. "I was being foolish. But I have learned that being foolish and being right are sometimes the same thing. I could not leave you alone. I could not treat you like you did not matter, because you did matter. You still do." Stepped closer to him. In culture, close contact between two warriors was a sign of connection, of trust, of something deeper. "In my culture," she said slowly, "when a warrior chooses another, they are bonded. It is not a casual thing. It is a declaration, a commitment, a promise that lasts until death." "I know," said. "I studied your culture. I wanted to understand you." "And do you understand me?" Reached out and took her hand. Her violet skin was warm against his human skin. The difference between them was obvious, visible, impossible to ignore. But the connection was there. It was real. "I understand that you are the strongest person I have ever met," said. "I understand that you are willing to change, even when it is hard. I understand that you chose to stand in front of the Galactic Council and tell them you wanted to be here. You chose me. I will never stop being grateful for that choice." "I did not choose you because I was grateful," said. "I chose you because I love you. That is what your films call it. That is what your books describe. Love. I did not believe it existed. I thought it was human weakness. But now I understand that it is human strength. And I have it. For you." Kissed her. It was awkward at first because their faces were shaped differently. But it worked. It meant something. It was a declaration written in action instead of words. They heard footsteps and broke apart. Lisa Grant walked toward them, and she was trying very hard not to smile. "Sorry," Lisa said. "Captain Morgan wanted me to tell you that the delegation is here. They want to begin the official trade negotiations." And exchanged glances. The official trade negotiations were important. They had been scheduled for weeks, but neither of them wanted to let go of this moment. This moment where they had said something important, something that could not be unsaid. "Tell the captain we are coming," said. Lisa left, and her footsteps made sounds of amusement all the way down the corridor. The trade negotiations were successful. The Empire and the human colonies agreed to exchange goods, knowledge, and cultural information. It was a good deal for both sides, but it was not the most important thing that happened that day. That night and walked through the corridors of the station together. Every human who saw them smiled. Every human understood what this meant. A human and a bonded together, walking through the darkness like the stars were guiding them. On the observation deck, with the galaxy spread out beneath them, asked her the question he had been holding in his heart for weeks. "Will you bond with me, by your people's laws and my people's customs? Will you choose me forever?" "Yes," said immediately. "Yes, I have already chosen you. I will choose you every day for the rest of my life." The news spread through the station in hours. A human and a bonded. The most important alliance in the galaxy, not written in treaties or agreements, but written in the hearts of two people who had found each other across an impossible distance. In the command center, Captain Morgan watched the news reports. She smiled at its image on the screen. He looked happier than she had ever seen him. "Well," she said to herself, "I suppose there are worse ways for humanity to change the galaxy." The future was uncertain, but for the first time in human history it was uncertain in ways that gave hope instead of fear. The bonding ceremony took place on the. Both species contributed to the celebration. Humans brought music and dancing. brought weapons displays and warrior competitions. It should not have worked, but somehow it did. Stood in a formal human suit, modified to fit ceremonial requirements. His hands were shaking, though he refused to admit it to anyone. He was about to bond with the princess of an empire. The weight of that moment was almost too much to carry. Entered in full ceremonial armor. Her violet skin gleamed beneath the lights. Her hair was braided with ceremonial ribbons. She looked like a warrior preparing for battle, which, in some ways, she was. She was preparing to commit herself to a human, to a lifetime of navigating the differences between their species. But when she saw, her fierce expression softened. She smiled, and that smile told him everything he needed to know. The ceremony lasted 3 hours. There were vows exchanged. There were traditions performed. Cut his hand and cut hers, and their blood mixed together as a symbol of their union. It was a tradition that disturbed some of the human guests, but understood the honor of it. Blood meant commitment. Blood meant you were willing to bleed for this person. When the ceremony was complete and stood together before both their peoples, they were bonded now, married, united in ways that went deeper than politics or trade agreements. Emperor stepped forward. He looked at directly. The human's knees wanted to shake, but he stood firm. "You have bonded with my daughter," the emperor said. "You have declared yourself her partner for life. This is good, is fierce and strong. She needs someone who will stand beside her, not behind her. Someone who will challenge her but also protect her. If you fail her, if you prove yourself unworthy, I will hunt you across the galaxy." "I would expect nothing less," said quietly. The emperor extended his hand. It was not a gesture of war. It was a gesture of greeting between warriors. Took it. The connection held for a long moment. "Welcome to my family," Emperor said. "Now you understand the weight of that." The news spread across the galaxy like a shock wave. A human had bonded with the princess. The event that had seemed impossible 6 months ago had happened. The barrier between species had fallen, and it had fallen because of love. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. But this time, the reaction was different. Some species expressed disapproval, but most did not. The vote was unanimous. The bonding was recognized by galactic law, and were now officially partners under both and human law. More importantly, the cultural exchanges began, established a human studies program on the. Young warriors began learning about human art and philosophy, taught them that strength was not just about power. It was about understanding. It was about choice. It was about the ability to see value in other species, other cultures, other ways of being alive. Worked with Emperor to develop joint human defense initiatives. Humans contributed strategic thinking and adaptability, contributed strength and resources. Together, they created something that neither species could create alone. They created partnership. But the most important change was simpler than that. 2 years after the bonding and return to Glacis Prime, they stood at the exact location where the royal transport had crashed. The site was now a memorial. 3 stone pillars marked where the soldiers had died. The inscription was simple. It honored sacrifice. It honored duty. It honored the choice to die for someone you loved. And placed flowers at the base of the memorial. The flowers were from both worlds. Human roses and star blossoms, united together just like the 2 people holding them. "Your soldiers' sacrifice meant something," said. "Because of them, you survived. And because you survived, 2 species learned to understand each other." "They would have liked that," said. "They would have been honored to know that their deaths led to peace instead of war." They stood together in silence for a long moment. The wind blew across Glacis Prime, but it was warm now. The planet was changing. As the climate shifted, ice was melting. Soon it would be possible for different species to live here. Soon it would be a meeting place instead of a hostile environment. That night on the station where everything had started, and sat together on the observation deck. They did this often now, sitting quietly and watching the stars. "Do you regret it?" asked suddenly. "Choosing me, choosing a life with an alien, choosing a path that changed everything." Thought about the question. He thought about the last 2 years. He thought about the challenges. There had been many. Some believed he was unworthy of their princess. Some humans believed he had betrayed his species by bonding with an alien. The pressures had been constant and intense. But when he saw her beauty and her strength and her willingness to change and grow, he had no doubts. "No," he said. "No, I will never regret this, because what we have done is more important than any individual life. We have shown the galaxy that different species can bond. We have shown that love is stronger than fear. We have shown that change is possible, even when it seems impossible." Rested her head against his shoulder. Humans and were not physically compatible for casual contact, but they had learned how to make it work. They had learned how to find ways to be close. "I was wrong about humans," said softly. "I thought you were weak. I thought your emotions made you fragile, but I was wrong. Your emotions make you strong. Your ability to care about other species, to sacrifice for them, to love them, that is not weakness. That is power." "Maybe," said, "or maybe we are just different kinds of strength. You have the strength of warriors and empires. We have the strength of choices and connections. Together, we are stronger than either of us could ever be alone." In the years that followed, the partnership between humanity and the Empire became the foundation of the galactic community. Other species saw what was possible. Species that had been enemies found ways to work together. The galaxy did not become perfect. There was still conflict and disagreement, but there was also understanding. There was also hope. And it had all started because one human had run into a blizzard to save a life. Because one human had made the choice to act, not because he had been ordered to, but because it was the right thing to do. Because a fierce alien princess had been willing to change her mind about an entire species, and because one man had been willing to stand beside her and help her become something greater than she had been before. On Glacis Prime, where the crash site memorial stood, a new city began to grow. Humans and worked together to build it. The city was called Refuge. It was a place where different species lived together, worked together, and created art and music together. In the center of the city there was a statue. It showed a human and a standing together. The inscription was written in both languages. It said simply, "Here is where two became one, and the galaxy was changed forever." And would visit the statue sometimes. They would stand before it and remember the moment when everything changed, when a choice made in an instant became a choice that shaped the future, when love became the most powerful force in the galaxy. And in the darkness of space, in the infinite expanse between the stars, humanity was no longer alone. Humanity was bonded with the fierce and noble, and together they were building something that had never existed before, a future where different could become unified, where fear could become hope, where the weaknesses of one species could be balanced by the strengths of another. The story of Hayes and Princess would be told for generations. It would be taught to young warriors and young humans alike. It would become the foundation of a new galactic order, not because the story was grand or dramatic, but because it was simple. It was true. It was about two people who chose each other and whose choice changed everything.